I want to begin this broadcast with details that are coming in from Bangladesh about the massive crackdown that's been initiated against Hindu groups, especially in Chittagong. Cases have been filed against several individuals and a large number of unidentified people have also been named in multiple FIRs that have been registered. Hindu groups in Bangladesh say the police is primarily targeting leaders and members of Hindu groups, including the Sanatan Jot. The Jamaat-e-Islami in Bangladesh has met the Nobel laureate administrator of Bangladesh, Professor Muhammad Yunus, and the Jamaat-e-Islami is seeking a ban on ISKCON. It wants a ban on ISKCON, it wants a ban on multiple other Hindu groups in Bangladesh. The High Court, of course, has refused to ban ISKCON. The High Court sought details from the administration on the charges against ISKCON, and reports seem to indicate that the High Court was not impressed with the charges that the administration had brought forward. Former Prime Minister of Bangladesh Sheikh Hasina has also come down heavily on the Muhammad Yunus administration for targeting Hindus and seeking a ban on ISKCON. That's the situation on ground. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Suryagini Roy, who joins us for more. So Suryagini, what more do we know about this crackdown that's been initiated on the Hindus?
Well, there are these major allegations and videos that have surfaced from Bangladesh, especially in Chittagong, where, various leaders of Hindu groups and communities have alleged that, there's a crackdown that's happening. But as you mentioned, it's also important, Gaurav, to note and mark that the ban on ISKCON, this entire, it all started with the ban on ISKCON because there were various groups in Bangladesh which were openly, calling for a ban on ISKCON, because as per them, ISKCON was into a lot of radicalism in the country. Some even called it a terrorist organization. Now, it's also important to mention to our viewers that ISKCON is present in almost 150 of the 150 countries in the world, and categorically, whenever we have spoken to ISKCON spokespersons or priests, they have mentioned one thing which is very important to inform our viewers, that even during the flood of Bangladesh that had happened just a couple of months back, this is after the departure of the Sheikh Hasina government, like that is after Sheikh Hasina flies out of Dhaka, there was a flood. And many were affected in Bangladesh. But ISKCON had, primarily come out and it had helped multiple people, and they did not, differentiate between the religion of any individual.
Yes.
So the ISKCON, ISKCON as a group, they were extremely disheartened. They were shocked. Surprised is not the word. Shocked is the word. That how can this kind of an organization, which does serves people, especially in Bangladesh as well, be termed as a radical terrorist organization and be charged for something like sedition. However, as you mentioned that correctly, that the High Court has rejected that ban, but that doesn't that doesn't mean that the government might not just go ahead and ban it.
And that's why the Jamaat-e-Islami members have gone to Muhammad Yunus and said you need to ban this organization. Imagine. So there just appears to be a plan afoot. First, you ban these strong organizations that keep Hindus grounded and connected to their roots. The moment they become rootless, then a couple of generations later, you start converting them. That is how it happens across. Cut them off from education, cut them off from culture, cut them off from religion, and then change their religion. Keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. But will the radical Islamists succeed, or will the world wake up? Remember, you've seen mass exodus even in Jammu and Kashmir in 1990. The world sadly kept quiet. Because there is anger right now. There's anger in Bangladesh, the Hindu community. It's extremely upset, the manner in which they are being targeted. And the arrest of Chinmay Krishna Das on charges of sedition, that's perhaps just symptomatic of that wider malaise, the disease in Bangladesh right now, the targeting of minorities by radical Islamists. There are calls for the Narendra Modi government in India to take action. Hindu seers have met Bangladesh Deputy High Commissioner in Kolkata. We are told that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, they've also discussed the issue in Bangladesh and deliberated upon the road ahead.
catch and slaughter them. That's the chant raised against Hindus on the streets of Chittagong, Bangladesh by the Nizam-e-Islam's workers. As the showdown over the arrest of former ISKCON monk Chinmoy Krishnadas escalates, Bangladesh continues to remain on the boil.
वो लोग बोल रहे हैं कि हम लोग इस्कॉन के एक एक भक्त को पकड़ पकड़ कर काटेंगे, मारेंगे। तो इस तरह की तो लैंग्वेज यूज़ किया जा रहा है। लेकिन जब सरकार की तरफ से भी ऐसे बयान आने लगते हैं तो इतने बड़े जो भी माइनॉरिटीज़ हैं वो लोग बहुत ही अपने को असुरक्षित महसूस कर रही है।
The country's High Court has refused to ban ISKCON despite calls from Hasnat Abdullah of the Students Against Discrimination movement, labelling the organization a terrorist group. But Chinmoy Das is still under arrest. In a stunning turn of events, ISKCON Bangladesh, presumably under pressure, has disassociated itself from the arrested Hindu priest.
Chinmoy Krishna Das, Chandan Kumar Dhar, ইসকন বাংলাদেশের মুখপাত্র নন, তাই তার বক্তব্য সম্পূর্ণ তার ব্যক্তিগত। অতএব লীলারাজ গৌর দাস, স্বতন্ত্র গৌর দাস ও চিন্ময় কৃষ্ণ দাসের বক্তব্য এবং কৃতকর্মের জন্য ইসকন বাংলাদেশ কোনোভাবেই দায়ী নয়।
Why has ISKCON Bangladesh abandoned its own is anyone's guess. In India, there's a clamor for the centre's intervention on Hindu minorities being targeted in Bangladesh, something that Prime Minister Modi has repeatedly raised in the last few months.
जिस सरकार के पास हमारे मांग पहुंच देंगे एवं सरकार उसके विवेचना करके हमके जानाएंगे।
मांगे कौन सी थी आप?
चिन्मय कृष्ण प्रभु को बेहद मुक्ति करना, बांग्लादेश को जो हिंदू मठ मंदिर शांत है उसका जीवन निरापद करना।
In an official statement released by the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, India has called upon the Bangladesh government to ensure safety and security of Hindus and all minorities and their places of worship. The government says that the primary responsibility for the protection of life and liberty of all citizens of Bangladesh, including minorities, rests with the government. With tensions mounting, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar discussed the situation in Bangladesh with Prime Minister Modi, a top-level meeting. Jaishankar is also expected to brief Parliament on the issue soon. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee declared atrocities on anyone, be it Hindus or Muslims, will not be tolerated. She's also said that she will support the Modi government's stand on this issue. There were protests in solidarity with Bangladeshi Hindus in Jammu as well.
They are demanding that Hindus should be protected, their rights should be safeguarded. They are also demanding that the world community must take cognizance of the developments in Bangladesh.
हमारे संतों के, हमारे युवाओं के आत्म बलिदानी जत्थे जाकर वहां पर अपने हिंदुओं की सुरक्षा को स्वयं निश्चित करना हम जानते हैं।
The Hindu minority in Bangladesh, which constitutes only about 8% of its 170 million population, has faced hundreds of attacks since the fall of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's Awami League government on August the 5th. Bureau Report, India Today.
Despite India repeatedly urging Bangladesh to protect minorities, including Hindus, the persecution and targeting only appears to be intensifying. So bad is the situation that Bangladeshi Hindus are scared to even voice their opinion on television. They fear retribution by radical Islamists who rule the streets and perhaps even the administration. What more can and should India do? Why is the US, the self-styled champion of democracy and minority rights and freedom of expression, silent? Joining me on this special broadcast, Ambassador Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Also with me is Ajay Jain Bhutoria, who is the Deputy National Finance Chair of the Democratic Party in the United States. He joins us from California. And Ajay Jain Bhutoria, I want to come to you first, sir. US President Joe Biden, his pictures have gone viral hugging Professor Muhammad Yunus. Professor Muhammad Yunus is considered equally close, whether it's the Obamas or the Clintons. Why are the self-styled champions of democracy, self-styled champions of minority rights silent on atrocities against Hindus in Bangladesh, sir?
It's totally unfortunate right now. I express my deep concern regarding the ongoing persecution of Hindus in Bangladesh, and I strongly condemn the jihadist and the Bangladeshi government whose actions are unacceptable at this point of persecution of Hindus, and particularly alarming in the recent detention of the ISKCON Bangladeshi priest Chinmoy Krishna Das, and trying to label such a spiritual organization, ISKCON, as terrorist organization. I have personally met and spoken to the U.S. State Department, including Secretary Blinken, recently, a few days back, expressing the concern of the Indian American community, that majority of the Indian American community is very concerned about what's happening in Bangladesh and the inaction by this administration.
And yet Joe Biden is silent, Barack Obama is silent, Bill Clinton is silent, Antony Blinken is silent. Ambassador Sikri, have US double standards been exposed? Total radio silence and atrocities against Hindus since August and since the ouster of Sheikh Hasina?
And to add to that, the Indian American community, which has been the margin of the victory in the battleground states, they clearly showed this time. They voted for Trump against the Democrats, and there was a they were margin of the victory, and they proved that why we lost the election, because their sentiments and what is happening in Bangladesh and in Canada against the Hindus.
Okay,
and,
give me a moment. Let me also bring in Mr. Bhatoria. Let me also bring in Ambassador Sikri. Ambassador Sikri, have US double standards been exposed completely?
Well, absolutely. I think that the democratic government of the USA has really failed the world, because they are the first ones, whenever they come to India, we're going to talk about human rights, we're going to talk about inclusiveness, we're going to talk about this, and they're completely silent on what is happening in Bangladesh. Completely silent. And I think this is absolutely shocking, because it really exposes what American analysts have been saying from the very beginning about the role of the Biden administration in what happened in Bangladesh, ending on August the 5th with the departure of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. This is what American analysts have been saying, and yes, I think it just proves it, that there's nobody to speak up for the complete atrocities happening on the streets of Bangladesh against the Hindus, against the Buddhists, against the Christians. President Trump spoke about it. Even before the elections, he called the situation in Bangladesh chaotic. He called the attacks on the Hindus and the Christians as barbaric. And even now, we do know that this is absolutely an effort by the Jamaat-e-Islami and the Students' Anti-Discrimination Movement. They are together. They are the same. They are one and the same.
Yes.
They're all the Jamaat-e-Islami. And they together want to somehow push out the minorities.
And the question would remain, why would America be silent? And Ajay and Bhatoria, give me an opportunity to tell you what Sheikh Hasina said. She's gone on record to say, and I quote, "I could have remained in power if I had surrendered the sovereignty of St. Martin Island and allowed America to hold sway over Bay of Bengal." Sir,
yes,
Sheikh Hasina openly talked about US role in her ouster. And that's a very major charge leveled at the President Biden's administration, the administration that is silent on radical Islamists ruling Bangladesh.
And absolutely, I mean, that is what the perception is through the media, that the deep state and the people involved from the administration who wanted access to that island has been the reason behind this ouster of democratically elected Sheikh Hasina government and bringing this radical Islamist unionist government who should be condemned by the United Nations, USA, and joint action should be taken from India and USA and other partners against this administration, even to the extent of all kind of bilateral trade restrictions and everything, till they stop this kind of action and provide relief to all the citizens, including Hindu, Buddhist, Jains, Muslims, yes, or whoever, everybody who's living in Bangladesh.
Let me once again bring in Ambassador Sikri to understand. Ma'am, does the US owe the world an explanation? Does US owe its strategic partner, special, comprehensive, close partnership between India and the US, does the US owe us an explanation on the ouster of Sheikh Hasina and the descent of Bangladesh into chaos where radical Islamists now rule the streets? Was it because of that St. Martin Island? Our own strategic partner appears to have stabbed us in the back.
Well, we should definitely be talking to the USA about this. And we do know that right in the very beginning, after the 5th of August, the day that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left the country, we have taken up the atrocities against the minorities, which is the first event that happened at that time. We took it up with Professor Mohammed Yunus himself. He telephoned our Prime Minister and said he would correct it. We took it up with President Joe Biden also. Even at that time, we did. Unhesitatingly, we spoke to President Joe Biden about it, and he too expressed his concern about it. But Professor Mohammed Yunus had just not lived up to his word. Neither has the American government lived up to their word to say that they would look into it. And Professor Mohammed Yunus is now totally silent. Even in the statement, they're not talking about what has happened to Chinmoy Prabhu, that he's been arrested for sedition. They're only talking about the death of the lawyer, which is what happened in the court in Chittagong yesterday.
So they may be in denial, ma'am, but does India have any leverage over Bangladesh? Are there strings we could pull to ensure Hindus in Bangladesh are better protected, or at least not discriminated against so widely?
Oh, definitely. I think we have a lot of strings, a lot of aspects of the relationship. We've said from day one that we want a normal, good relationship with Bangladesh, and we are waiting for the Bangladesh government, the interim government, to come and say something. But there'll be no formal consultations or talks. Maybe they'll be held soon. I don't know. But I think that this is something that we have to take up. We have to take up, and the Bangladesh and Indian economies are totally integrated. Even as we speak, tens of thousands of tons of rice is going across to Bangladesh. Whatever they need, we are supplying. We are being absolutely correct on that, and all humanitarian aid is being sent. So there's a lot of aspects of it. Where people come across for medical treatment. We're ready to give the visas, but when the people come to take the visa, they're mounting anti-Indian slogans. So what has happened in Bangladesh is they've created an atmosphere of complete anti-Indianism. That if you talk about India favorably, you're talking about Sheikh Hasina. But this has gone to such an extent that the people in Bangladesh are now saying it was earlier better. Age bhalo chilo. So they're saying that what is happening today is much worse than what it was in the time of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. So actually the situation on the ground for the people in Bangladesh, including the Hindus and all other minorities, but for everybody in general, the situation on the ground is dire.
It's going from bad to worse, and we'll track that story. Many thanks for joining me. I need to just quickly go across to that big story that's now coming in from Israel and Lebanon. Just when the ceasefire came into effect, there are reports of violations of that ceasefire. So there are reports of firing that's being reported. The Israeli Defense Forces in a statement have just said a short time ago terrorist activity was detected at a facility of the Hezbollah terrorist organization with medium-range rockets in southern Lebanon. The threat was thwarted with a fighter jet attack. The IDF is deployed in southern Lebanon, acting and thwarting any violation of ceasefire agreement. And just a short while back, I'd spoken to Israel's ambassador to India, Reuven Azar, about the ceasefire violations, about the ceasefire and the road ahead. Listen in. Is the ceasefire holding? Israeli tanks are reported to have opened fire in 6 different locations in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah leader says IDF is opening fire on people who are returning home to check what remains of their homes after the Israeli bombings.
Well, good evening. What Israel is doing right now is giving a chance to the ceasefire. We will abide by the conditions of the ceasefire, which state very clearly that Hezbollah operatives are not allowed to go south of the Litani River. If Hezbollah operatives do go south, then they will meet the might of the Israeli Defense Forces.
So are we to understand, Ambassador, that the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701 will be followed? That is what you want in toto as part of the ceasefire agreement? Well, that Israel wants to ensure Hezbollah withdraws north of the Litani River, and the UN forces or Lebanese forces monitor the territory south of the Litani River. Is that what you want strict enforcement of?
Yeah, of course. We've been saying this from the beginning. And if you remember, following the aggression of Hezbollah on the 8th of October, Israel has sought a political solution that will bring full implementation of UN Security Council 1701. And the aim of this ceasefire and this mechanism that was created is to create a better mechanism to implement that resolution. However, if the Lebanese government and Hezbollah do not implement the resolution, Israel will take independent action.
Now, there is an apprehension that the ceasefire will actually give the Hezbollah an opportunity to regroup, rearm, and then relaunch attacks, and not just on northern Israel. Is that a fear that you share?
Well, there's always a concern because the aim of this Israeli military operation was not to completely eradicate Hezbollah. We were not planning to invade the entire territory of Lebanon. The situation we want to reach is exactly as you said before, that Resolution 1701 is implemented. So Hezbollah may try to rearm and regroup, but if it tries to do so south to the Litani, then Israel will take action because it contradicts the terms of the ceasefire.
Does this give you then the opportunity to focus entirely on Hamas? Is there an attempt to seek a deal to get back 101 hostages who still remain in Hamas custody?
Well, that's absolutely right. And what is important in this ceasefire is that we have taken out Hezbollah and Iran from the equation. As you remember, Iran launched a frontal attack against Israel after the 7th of October. And now Iran is exposed. We have taken out their air defenses. We have taken out their missile factories. We have even striked a part of their nuclear program, an element of the nuclear program. So the fact that Iran and Hezbollah is out of the equation, indeed, as you said, is going to give us the attention span to try and bring back the remaining 101 hostages. As you know, we have released 152 hostages. We still have 101 in the Gaza Strip. And we will try to devise, together with international partners, not only the safe return of our hostages, but also maybe a brighter future for the Palestinian population in Gaza that has been taken hostage by the Hamas terrorist organization.
You know, there are two aspects I want to focus on, but first let's talk about Iran. Where is Iran on board this agreement? Will Iran continue to arm the Hezbollah as Israel says that all the missiles come from Iran? And you mentioned, and as did Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that a part of the Israeli nuclear program was neutralized in your airstrikes. What details can you share with us, Ambassador?
Well, as you know, following the huge barrage of missiles and drones that was fired at Israel, Israel took action against Iran. We believe Iran did a huge miscalculation. They thought that they are completely immune. But what really happened is that they have received a severe blow from the Israeli Air Force, and they have rushed Hezbollah to strike a ceasefire out of concern that Israel will hurt them again. So this is a good development. We hope that this ceasefire will hold. If it doesn't hold, Israel will find a ways to enforce by itself Resolution 1701, and we hope that that won't be necessary. But we have to show resolve, and if we don't show resolve, we know what is the result. Hezbollah will go back to the border area. We are, we have a commitment not to allow that.
So Israel is very clear. Hezbollah needs to withdraw beyond the Litani River. Either Lebanon ensures that, or Israel will. We will continue to track that story very closely. That is all I have for you on India First this evening. Many thanks for watching.